What is the most racially diverse country in the world? The US and Brazil are both massively diverse and host huge groups of people from around the world. So I'd imagine they're the frontrunners in terms of racial diversity specifically. For countries that didn't reach that point through mass immigration, I'd imagine that it's either a nation like Nigeria or the DRC, both huge and very diverse nations, or Indonesia with its mishmash of hundreds of isolated islanders. Cultural diversity is a bit of a different story though, as most Americans, Brazilians are heavily assimilated into their respective cultures. And I'd argue the US is remarkably homogeneous culturally for how large and racially diverse it is. Culturally the most diverse is probably Papua New Guinea with its nearly 1,000 regional languages and cultures. But many African countries are also here as well. Probably depends on what you consider a race. In some places and contexts, it's a synonym for ethnicity. But if you're asking about the American, Western definition that is just about skin color, probably the US, maybe Canada. According to Google, Liberia. Well, apparently Liberia followed by Uganda and Togo? After pasting your question in Google, TooAfraidToAsk here, I learned that ethnic diversity is measured by the odds that if you pulled to randos they would come from different ethnicities. The US is nowhere near the top, with these top 3 being in the high 80% range. I guess the US does have a lot of ethnicities, but it still has a huge core of white guys and a couple of other large groups that lower the diversity significantly. USA is called the melting pot for a reason. Surely it's one of Brazil, USA, or UK. London legit feels like the single most diverse city I've ever been to. America has everything and everyone. Surprised at how little Australia is mentioned here. I'd argue London is the most diverse city in the world. People make jokes about British cuisine, but at least in London you can taste the world. Canada. Toronto is arguably the most diverse city on the planet, surpassing even New York and London. It's hard finding data because seems like nowadays Google is programmed to give you the wrong answer, or answer to a slightly related question you didn't ask, so most lists only show the most ethnically diverse countries, which is not the same as race. If I had to guess though, it would be Brazil, Singapore, US, Canada and the UK. Maybe some other places in Latin America, Mexico, Dominican Republic, Colombia. Because of mass immigration, I'd have to say the USA, Brazil, or Australia. Taking that out of the picture, I think a lot of African countries are frontrunners. America is a land of immigrants. Anyone who is not a Native American had to migrate here in the last few hundred years. And until fairly recently in our history, immigrants were welcomed and often celebrated. So, I would guess America has the most racially diverse population, probably followed by Canada for similar reasons. Personally, I found that Dubai had people from all over the world. As it is largely a city of immigrants, not many Emirati around. Most of the people are from Asia and the subcontinent though, so I'm not sure of percentages. Canada, in general, is diverse. However, Toronto, GTA, is really diverse. You can walk for blocks and not hear an English conversation between pedestrians. Most likely Australia, as according to the last census 51% of Australians are either first-generation migrants, born overseas, or second generation, at least one parent born overseas. Australia has a relatively small population compared to the USA and UK, but it's statistically dominated by foreign cultures and immigrants. The major cities are all cultural melting pots with very distinct fusions of Western, Asian, Middle Eastern, Latin American and African influences. Africa is the most diverse. Actually, the continent holds most mitochondrial DNA varieties than the rest of the world, particularly Northeast Africa. Look up mtDNA and mitochondrial Eve. A whole bunch of sub-Saharan African countries, and it's not even close. Ugandan or Liberia according to most Google results. Canada, methinks. But specifically Toronto, if we're talking cities.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Eracast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.